Previously, after ensuring Jinho's safety, Jin-Woo turned his full attention to Thomas Andre and the rest of the scavenger guild. He then summoned his army of shadow soldiers, prepared to take on the entire guild. Seeing this, Thomas Andre's eyes lit up with excitement. At last, he had found an opponent worthy of his strength. Inwardly, he dismissed all thoughts of Huang Dong-su and the past. None of it mattered anymore. The only way to redeem his damaged pride was simple. He had to kill Sung Jin-Woo. Despite this burning resolve, Thomas gave one last warning. He told Jin-Woo it wasn't too late to admit his mistake, step back, and apologize. If he did, he would spare his life. But Jin-Woo didn't waste words. Instead, he raised his hand and flipped him off. The gesture made Thomas's fury boil over. His body began to transform as he snarled that Jin-Woo would regret refusing this final chance. Both sides prepared for battle. Jin-Woo signaled his shadow soldiers, and in an instant, the Black Army surged forward, charging toward the hunters. Thomas reacted just as quickly, ordering his guild to intercept. The scavenger hunters rushed to meet the assault head-on. Their tanks took a defensive stance, layering their magical shields into a towering wall in a desperate attempt to slow the advancing tide. But the pressure of the shadows was overwhelming. The wall cracked, and the defense was broken. The moment the barrier fell, dozens of shadow soldiers were destroyed in an instant, crushed by the overwhelming force of Thomas Andre alone. Looking ahead, Thomas spotted Tusk. The Orc High Mage had cast Hymn of Protection, summoning a glowing barrier to block his advance. Without hesitation, Thomas tore through the shield, leaping forward and smashing his fist directly into Tusk's face. Even as the blow landed, Thomas realized the truth. His guild members stood no chance against these monsters. Leaving them behind, he charged deeper into the building where Jin-Woo was waiting. Inside, the sight was grim. Most of the scavenger guild hunters were already lying defeated on the floor, shadows looming over them. Amid the chaos, Jin-Woo himself stood engaged in battle, cutting through the hunters with deadly precision. Thomas roared and launched himself at him. But before he could reach his target, Iron stepped forward, blocking his path. With a single furious punch, Thomas demanded the knight move aside. The impact shattered Iron's shield and armor, sending him crashing to the ground in one blow. But when Thomas looked again, Jin-Woo was gone. Confused, he scanned the battlefield, only to sense him appear at his side. Before Thomas could react, Jin-Woo's dagger struck, but to the Shadow Monarch's shock, the attack had no effect. Thomas countered immediately. His fist slammed into Jin-Woo, sending him flying across the air. He declared that this was the power of a national-level hunter. Even before Jin-Woo could hit the ground, Thomas extended his hand, using psychokinesis to drag him back. He declared that Jin-Woo should feel the difference in their strength and despair. But Jin-Woo was not helpless. While being pulled in, he invoked ruler's authority, locking Thomas in place. The massive hunter's eyes widened in disbelief. He realized Jin-Woo was crushing him under invisible power, leaving him completely immobilized. Despite the psychic pull, Jin-Woo closed the distance and slashed forward. The blow landed true, forcing Thomas to cough blood as he staggered back and crashed to the ground. Barely staying upright, Thomas stared at the blood dripping from his lips, stunned. Jin-Woo didn't slow down. He charged again, reminding Thomas of his earlier words. Now it was Jin-Woo who repeated them back. Feel the difference in our strength and despair. With blinding speed, he unleashed a flurry of blows. Thomas struggled to defend himself, his giant frame forced backward under the relentless assault. At last, the world's strongest hunter snapped. His roar thundered across the battlefield. He swore he would stop underestimating his opponent. Golden energy erupted from his body as he activated his ultimate skill. Reinforcement. His transformation had begun. Meanwhile, agents of the Hunter Bureau were already en route to the battleground. Inside the car, Adam White was questioned about the situation. He explained that there was no time to go over every detail. One of the men with him added that, as civilians, they might not realize the danger, but getting any closer could easily cost them their lives. Back at the factory, Thomas Andre had completed his full transformation. At that moment, Jin-Woo remembered something Kamish had once said, that 4 humans were chosen to inherit the ruler's power. It became clear now. Those survivors of the Kamish raid had become the 4 national-level hunters, and Thomas Andre was one of them. Thomas charged straight at Jin Wu. The Shadow Monarch moved to meet him, but stopped short as Thomas prepared to strike. In an instant, the ground beneath them shattered as Thomas slammed down with overwhelming force. Jin Wu narrowly evaded the blow. Thomas followed with another skill. Panic spread among the guild members, who screamed for everyone to get away from him. A swirling vortex appeared. Thomas had created a black hole. Everything nearby was pulled toward him, shadows and debris alike. Jinwoo steadied himself with ruler's authority, resisting the pull. What strength, he thought. This power. It's like a black hole. Without my authority, I would have been dragged in as well. Suddenly, a violent explosion tore through the area, obliterating half the building. Amid the destruction, Jinwoo emerged unscathed. Looking down, he saw Thomas below, roaring that he would not miss his target this time. As the remaining hunters evacuated with the wounded, Thomas launched upward at lightning speed. But Jinwoo met him head-on, stepping on his face mid-air and kicking off, sending the giant hunter crashing back down. Thomas used telekinesis again to pull Jinwoo in, but the monarch countered with ruler's authority, dragging Thomas toward him instead. Thomas realized his opponent intended to clash directly. Accepting the challenge, he steeled himself. Their fists collided with explosive force, shockwaves ripping through the battlefield. To Thomas's disbelief, Jinwoo's strike broke through his reinforced armor. The monarch's cold, disappointed glare cut deeper than the blow itself. Thomas was driven into the ground. He rose, screaming in rage, and threw another massive punch. But Jinwoo slipped past with ease, driving his knee into Thomas's face and shattering more of his golden armor. By now, the agents of the Hunter Bureau had arrived on site. They were frozen in shock at the sheer destruction being caused by just two individuals. One man warned Adam White to stay back, pointing to something that had just been hurled across the battlefield. White asked what it was, only to be told the truth. It was Thomas Andre himself. There, lying on the ground, the strongest hunter in America was being beaten mercilessly by Jin Wu. Thomas's thoughts reeled. How can a mage-type hunter display such overwhelming power and speed? Summoning what strength remained, he swore he could not lose this way and attempted a counterattack. But Jin Wu's speed was overwhelming. He deflected the strike with ease and tore more of Thomas's armor away. Furious, Thomas forced himself back up, roaring his name. He declared that he was Thomas Andre and demanded to know if his opponent truly thought this much was enough to bring him down. But Jin Wu was relentless. He appeared behind Thomas and struck again, reminding him that it didn't matter who he was. He continued the beating, driving his fists into Thomas again and again, shattering both his armor and his bones. Agent White pleaded for the assault to stop, but Jin Wu's wrath did not ease. He kept striking until Thomas was broken and barely able to stand. At last, the great Thomas Andre surrendered. He admitted defeat, saying it was over. Only then did Jin Wu finally halt his assault. Adam White looked on in disbelief. To see the world's strongest hunter reduced to such a state, he wondered how many hunters in existence could have accomplished such a thing. Perhaps none at all. And once news of this spread, the entire world would be shaken to its core. White immediately ordered the on-site hunters to treat Thomas at once. One of them reported grimly that every bone in Thomas's body had been broken, and his blood loss was severe. Healing him alone would not be enough. They would all need to combine their strength. Yet amid the devastation, one detail stood out. Despite the sheer scale of the battle, no one had died. White breathed a heavy sigh of relief. For a battle of this magnitude, this outcome was as good as they could have hoped for. But then, an agent called his attention to something nearby. When they arrived, they found a lifeless body lying in the rubble. It was Hunter Huang Dong-soo, and Sung Jin-Woo was nowhere to be found. Back in Korea, Sung Jin-Woo sat quietly atop a tall building. Through shadow exchange, he had returned instantly from America, switching places with Baru immediately after his battle with Thomas Andre. Another presence lingered beside him. Jin-Woo turned to it and remarked that it had been a long time since it had set foot in Korea. Elsewhere, Baru appeared in a hospital room, using his healing abilities to treat Jin-Ho's injuries. Not long after, a shadow knelt before Jin-Woo and asked to be given a name. This was the shadow born from Hunter Huang Dong-soo. Jin-Woo considered him for a moment, then decided. Since he had lost his life to greed, his name would be Greed. After naming him, Jin-Woo ordered him to bow his head to the ground, establishing the Shadow's loyalty. The following day, back in the United States, Jin-Woo made his way to the International Guild Conference. Outside the venue, large crowds of reporters gathered. Jin-Woo asked Adam White about the attention, and Adam explained that the media had likely caught word of his clash with Thomas Andre. As Jin-Woo entered the building, he thought to himself that he no longer wished to dwell on Hwang Dong-soo. His purpose in America was singular. Once his questions were answered, he would have no more reason to remain. Inside the conference hall, the world's leading guild representatives had gathered. The moment Jin-Woo stepped into the room, the atmosphere shifted. All eyes turned toward him. Whispers spread quickly through the crowd. People murmured about the man who had stood against Thomas Andre and nearly killed him, the same hunter who had also played a decisive role during the Tokyo Gate crisis. Soon after, the presentation began. A scientist walked up to the stage and introduced himself as Dr. Belzer. He addressed the assembly, reminding them that gates were appearing with increasing frequency across the world. But there was something else, something less known. Strange activity had also been detected high above the skies. He explained that magical energy in the atmosphere was growing thicker and denser than ever before. To describe this new phenomenon, he introduced a term, the Magisphere. A map lit up on the screen behind him, displaying 9 specific locations where the Magisphere had formed. Out of all of them, the highest concentration of magical energy had been recorded above Seoul, South Korea. The revelation caused the entire hall to shift their gaze toward Jin-Woo, their suspicion clear. Sensing the tension, Dr. Belzer quickly reassured them. There was no reason to believe that Sung Jin-Woo was controlling the Magisphere. If he truly wielded such overwhelming power, he would already be something beyond hunters entirely. Meanwhile, Jin-Woo silently considered the strange phenomenon. He wondered if the 9 locations that had appeared might somehow be connected to the number of rulers and monarchs. The doctor on stage concluded his report. He admitted that the cause of the disturbances remained unknown, and at the moment, there was nothing humanity could do to stop it. Still, he insisted that this uncertainty should not lead to inaction. The world, he warned, might soon face another great upheaval. When the doctor stepped aside, director David Brennan walked to the center of the stage. He asked the doctor if the presentation was finished. Once the man confirmed, David told the audience that he would continue from there. With a heavy tone, David began to address the hunters gathered before him. He revealed tragic news. Christopher Reed, one of the world's most powerful national-level hunters, had been assassinated 2 weeks ago. Shock rippled through the assembly. Murmurs spread across the room. Hunters whispered in disbelief. How could someone as strong as Christopher have been killed? Who could possibly overpower him? Some even speculated whether the mysterious man who fought Thomas Andre the previous day might be involved. Through it all, Sung Jin-Woo sat silently, his expression unchanged. David then continued his report. The Hunter Bureau had identified a possible suspect, known only as Suspect S. A photo flashed onto the screen. The hunters stared in disbelief. The man looked exactly like Jin-Woo's father, Sung Il-hwan. Confusion erupted across the room. Some hunters muttered in ignorance, claiming that all Asians looked the same. But others immediately noticed the uncanny resemblance to Jin-Woo. At that moment, Jin-Woo's mana flared slightly. Rage and conflict surged inside him as he glared at the image. In his mind, he questioned why the rulers had allowed a dungeon to produce a creature that bore his father's appearance. He recalled Kamish's final words, wondering if this revelation was somehow connected. David explained further. The suspect had been found inside a gate in the United States. Because the man spoke fluent Korean, the Bureau had brought in Hwang Dong-soo, a Korean-American S-rank hunter, to conduct an interrogation. But during questioning, the man suddenly became violent. He overpowered Hwang, destroyed much of the Bureau's headquarters, and vanished. Based on the incident and his immense strength, the Bureau concluded that Suspect S was likely a humanoid monster, and the assassin responsible for Christopher Reed's death. Footage of the interrogation appeared on the screen. Jin-Woo watched as his father warned Hwang never to set foot in Korea again. The shadow soldier, Greed, standing by, confirmed it aloud. There was no doubt. The man was indeed Sung Il-hwan. David finished by announcing that the Hunter Bureau would request cooperation from guilds worldwide to capture Suspect S. He urged everyone to report sightings immediately. When asked if there was proof the man was not human, David answered that his mana emission was identical to that of a magical beast. Another hunter asked whether the suspect truly claimed to be a human who had gone missing inside a dungeon, and if that person had once existed. David confirmed both. But when pressed on why the man's identity had not been revealed, David admitted the truth. The suspect was connected to someone present in the room, and that was why the Bureau had withheld the details. At that moment, Liu Zhigang, China's 7-star hunter, raised his voice. He argued that revealing the suspect's identity would help the investigation. Looking directly at Jin Wu, Liu demanded to know what connection the monster had to him. Reluctantly, Director David admitted the truth. During interrogation, the man had claimed to be Sung Jin-Woo's father. The room fell into stunned silence. Liu Zhigang turned to Jinwoo and asked what he would do if Suspect S truly was his missing father, and if other hunters attempted to hunt him down. Jinwoo's response was firm. He declared that hunters existed to hunt monsters. If Suspect S truly was a monster, then Jinwoo himself would deal with him. But if the man was not a monster, and truly his father, then Jinwoo would stand against anyone who tried to harm him. His voice hardened as he swore to protect his family, even if it meant making an enemy of every hunter in the world. Later outside the hall, Adam White approached Jin Wu. Curious, he asked if Jin Wu had truly meant those words. Jin Wu answered without hesitation. He did. Adam remarked that there were perhaps only 2 hunters in the entire world bold enough to speak in such a way before hundreds of the strongest hunters from over 120 nations. When Jin Wu asked who the other was, Adam replied that it was Thomas Andre, currently recovering in the hospital. Adam then invited Jin Wu to attend the feast the Bureau had prepared for the hunters. But before Jin Wu could answer, Liu Zhigang and several Chinese hunters approached. Liu spoke in Chinese, and Adam translated. Liu was telling Jin Wu that he had once caught a giant monster on the coast, the same creature that Jin Wu had let slip away. Liu explained that the battle had been far more difficult than expected, especially since it was fought over water. From that day onward, he admitted, he had been eager to meet Jin Wu, curious about the kind of hunter who could defeat such powerful foes with ease. Liu extended his hand, and Jin Wu accepted it. As he watched Liu walk away, Jin Wu thought to himself that his first impression of the man had been wrong. Beneath his gruff exterior, Liu Zhigang was actually an interesting person. Adam then explained that Liu had also expressed hope that Suspect S was not truly part of Jinwoo's family. Jinwoo replied calmly that it was all right. He understood. Soon after, Director David approached Jinwoo and asked if he had a moment to talk. The scene shifted, showing Jinwoo seated across from Miss Sellner. She greeted him politely, remarking that it had been some time since they last met. Jinwoo studied her carefully, wondering what the upgrader wanted with him now. He replied that he had never expected her to come find him again. Sellner's expression turned serious. She confessed that she had been haunted by the same recurring dream every night. In that dream, the world's top-ranked hunters were hunted down one after another by a mysterious figure. A few days later, the dreams that Mrs. Sellner spoke of began to come true. Jin Wu questioned her carefully, wondering if she had meant Christopher Reed. Director David Brennan answered in her place. He explained that the Bureau had indeed warned Christopher, but the man had refused to listen, and the result was already known. Sellner continued her explanation. She trembled as she described how the world's strongest hunters, the very people who had been supporting humanity, were destined to be hunted one after another. She insisted that the pursuers would not stop until all had fallen. Jin Wu wanted to know if her reason for visiting was to warn him personally. Sellner shook her head. Instead, she explained that she had come to ask him to protect the hunters themselves. She admitted that she had tried countless times to recall the faces of those being killed in her dreams, but failed each time. In an attempt to uncover their identities, she had used her unique ability within the dream itself. But when she came into direct contact with the endless power that surrounded them, she was forced awake. Even so, she remembered something vividly, the voice she had heard when her eyes met that overwhelming force. Jin Wu asked what that voice had said. Selner recounted how it had ordered her to go back and prepare for war. Hearing this, Jin-Woo realized the truth. This was the same war between rulers and monarchs that the King of Giants had once warned him about. He wondered which side was truly hunting the hunters. He then asked Selner why she wanted him to protect the hunters. She explained that she had sensed within him the same type of immense power she had encountered in her dreams. Jin-Woo immediately understood. She must have seen a glimpse of the Shadow Monarch's power within him back then. Director David Brennan then stepped forward. He clarified that the beings hunting hunters were not like ordinary enemies. They existed far beyond the level of humans. The Bureau was asking Jin-Woo to use his overwhelming strength to stop them. David admitted that at first they had doubted whether Jin-Woo was truly the one capable of protecting the others. But after witnessing his battle with Thomas Andre, they had no more doubts. He assured Jin-Woo that the Bureau was willing to offer anything he desired, even the greatest treasure Kamish had left behind, the runestone. He reminded Jin-Woo that there were hunters who had been granted powerful blessings, and it was because of their strength that the world still survived. If those hunters were lost, then humanity itself would collapse. But Jin-Woo shook his head. Calmly, he told them he could not do what they were asking. David was shocked. He asked whether Jin-Woo's refusal had anything to do with holding a grudge against Thomas Andre. Jin-Woo denied it. His reason was different. He explained that the real problem was that he still did not know who he should be fighting. With that, Jin-Woo rose from his seat and began to leave. As he walked away, Agent Adam White reflected on Jin-Woo's earlier words in the conference room, his vow to protect his family even if it meant standing against every hunter in the world. Then Jin-Woo suddenly paused and turned back toward Adam. He asked if it would be possible to receive a list of the hunters the Bureau wanted him to protect. He added that he would appreciate the chance to meet them himself. Hearing this, Adam White smiled warmly. He agreed without hesitation. Time fast-forwarded to the final day of the International Guild Conference, an event known as the Night of the Hunters. Jin-Woo attended alongside Jin-Ho, who had now made a full recovery. Jin-Woo asked how his friend was feeling. Jin-Ho responded with a grin, saying he was as good as new. As the two walked together, murmurs followed them. People whispered in awe about Jin-Woo, remarking that even while standing so close, they could not sense his presence at all. They agreed he was operating on an entirely different level. Their eyes then shifted to Jin-Ho. Some noted that he was the man who had fought Thomas Andre in order to protect Jin-Woo. During the gathering, a man approached Jin-Woo. He introduced himself as the CEO of a global corporation specializing in the trade of monster remains. With a polite smile, he expressed his wish to purchase all of the giant monsters Jin-Woo had hunted in Japan, and he asked if Jin-Woo had time to discuss business. Jin-Woo shook his head and explained that he personally handled raids, while his vice chairman managed business matters. With that, he left Jin-Ho to handle the CEO, thinking to himself that Jin-Ho was finally living up to the role of a proper vice chairman. As Jin-Woo stepped away, Agent Adam White approached and handed him the list of hunters he had requested earlier. Adam explained that the list ranked hunters according to their activity and contributions. Curious, Jin-Woo asked where he ranked. Adam replied that considering his defeat of the giants, he would likely fall in third or fourth place. Jin-Woo glanced at the names, thinking to himself that it was tedious to memorize them all. Instead, he considered simply placing shadow soldiers on each one. That way he could track allies, identify enemies, and even reach the rulers through these connections if necessary. While he was deep in thought, he sensed a presence approaching. Hunter Wu urged him to be cautious. Jin-Woo reassured him that there was no need to worry. The presence turned out to be Thomas Andre. The massive hunter stopped in front of Jin-Woo and explained why he had come. Lifting his arm, Thomas revealed that the magical damage he had suffered during their battle was too severe. Even with the combined efforts of healers and doctors, the injury had only partially recovered, healing slowly but incompletely. Thomas admitted that after their fight, Jin-Woo had been in a position to annihilate his entire guild. Yet despite the chaos, no one in the Scavenger Guild had died, aside from Huang Dong-Su, the one responsible for starting the incident. Looking directly at Jin-Woo, Thomas asked why he had spared them. Jin-Woo answered plainly, because they had not committed any crime deserving death. Thomas accepted the reply with a nod. As he began to walk away, he mentioned his intention to give Huang a proper funeral. Though Huang had committed sins deserving death, Thomas still wanted him to have dignity in the end. Raising his hand slightly, Thomas added that once his arm healed, he hoped to share a meal with Jin Wu. He suggested that Jin Wu give his contact information to his secretary so they could reach out later. Soon after, Laura, Thomas's secretary, approached Jin Wu. She explained that her master had just shown gratitude in the only way he knew, roughly but sincerely. She admitted Thomas was actually quite shy. Then on his behalf, she asked for Jin Woo's contact information. She explained that Thomas wanted to send a gift of thanks and asked if there was anything specific Jin Woo might want. Jin Woo considered it briefly before answering. A useful dagger would suffice. After Laura left, Adam White suggested guiding Jin Woo to greet the hunters on the list. But Jin Woo declined, saying there was no need. Instead, his eyes scanned the list carefully. Something was missing. He noticed that rank 6 was not included. When he asked about it, Adam explained that contact with the 6th-ranked hunter had been lost a few days before the conference. Both the Brazilian government and the Bureau's secret agency were still searching for him, but no trace had been found. Hearing this, Jin Woo wondered if the missing hunter had already fallen into enemy hands. That left only 7 names on the list. The episode ends here. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. Thanks again for your support, and I'll see you next time.